Living in a 1930s semi-detached property in the UK can be tight on space. Since moving into the property, I've extended out of the back and knocked the wall between the kitchen and the dining room through, but still the kitchen is only around 25 square meters. I've got no utility area, which means the washing machine and dryer need to fit into this kitchen space. So in an attempt to make the absolute most of the space, I'm building a raised washing machine cabinet, which fits in a very awkward area of the kitchen. I've got to say that this project was not easy. So let's get into the build and hopefully it helps you with your renovation or helps you with a DIY project. The reality is this was just one giant mistake. After building this out of CLS timber and turning the washing machine on, the vibration of the spin cycle pulled all of the roll plugs out of the wall and the whole frame was flapping around. Clearly, it wasn't strong enough. Or at least I hadn't screwed it together in the right way. So I had to come up with another design and actually spend some time designing it this time. So I knew that all of it would fit together, it would be strong enough, and I could make it look good at the end. And the material I chose to go with was the melamine MDF that I used for all of the other kitchen cabinets, called Nogel Valentina. Because this houses a washing machine, I'm pretty worried that the water might get into the MDF and make it swell. I'm just praying that the melamine surface stops that from happening. The main reason for raising the washing machine up is so I can still get access to the water stopcock, which is situated right behind where I want the washing machine. This is the main stopcock, which brings all of the cold water into the house. We've got this for the washing machine and then the waste. But here, we need to come off these two pipes right here, and we're going to take them through the wall right here. We're going to need some pipes to come through, and that's because eventually there's going to be a sink right here, and this is going to be a downstairs toilet. So I'm going to bring cold and hot water through this wall. Once the washing machine cabinet is built, there's no way I'm going to get easy access to this pipe work, so it's better to just do this work now. It's fair to say that I am not a plumber, and no job is ever as easy as it seems to be on the surface. There's always little bits of things in the background that need to be completed first, and it always makes me think about how other DIYers and home renovators cope with this type of problem. Do they do it themselves or wait for a plumber? Filled the whole system back up now. It's under full pressure and there is no leaks. I'm going to start putting together the new structure for this washing machine. The plan was always to have this washing machine raised up off the ground. So we're going to have a drawer at the bottom, and then we're going to have a nice big door which covers the washing machine and some storage at the top. It's going to be made in 3 parts. This is the top unit. There's going to be one below that, which will house the washing machine itself. And then we've got a final one, which will be the bottom drawer and the structure of the machine. That one is the one that's going to house the washing machine. But as you can see, I've left half of the back open. And I've done that because all of the amenities need to come in and out of there. One thing I didn't consider was cutting the base. The base is solid and it goes all the way to the back, and I'm thinking that might need some cutting out of it in order for those pipes and the waste to go through. Now I've got all of our CLS cut up ready for this bottom framework, and I'm going to be screwing it together with impact driver and these 70mm riser screws. These are ace, and we should get this together really quick because all the bits are cut. It's just a matter of putting them together and putting some screws in. So as you can see, I've removed this back part here and just basically moved these, what were in the corner, these struts, just forward a little bit. So we've got this gap here. That's a 70mm gap, and that's going to mean all of the space here is going to be used up by the amenities. Hopefully when I slide this into place in a minute, it will fit perfectly and I'll have access to all of those things. Let's go check it out. Not too bad. That isn't the best access, but it would still be accessible if you can put your hand. So we've obviously got the plug socket and the stopcock. The stopcock's very easily accessible. Put my hand underneath and grab that. But for this, you'll have to put your hand under. Whoa, we don't want to turn that on. Not only is it heavy, oh, it's awkward. Let's get this washing machine in. This is the test fit. Wish me luck, because this is heavy. So I've realised I need to pull the washing machine out in order to be able to connect the power. I should have done that first, but I just thought I'd be able to do it. I thought I'd have the space behind to get my hand in. I don't. And to make things easy, I'm going to pull the washing machine out. I'm going to put it on this DeWalt box, and hopefully it'll just sit there just for a moment whilst I plug things in and push it all back. I actually wish I built the washing machine unit a little bit bigger. The fit is very snug. But before I could put the top unit on, I needed to make a special back box solution for the oven switch. You may not know this about me, but before I started this home renovation, I'd worked in marketing for 13 years. And honestly, my heart wasn't in it. I've always been more of a physical person. So I trained up to be an electrician. I never did it full time, but once I'd left my marketing job in 2025, I did spend some time on the road with an electrician. I'm gonna put this into the side of the top unit. So I'm going to be drilling a 7mm hole, and that's going to fit straight into it, and then I'm going to use a hammer to knock it in place. And what that is essentially is a brass insert, because this, which is again difficult to show on camera, is like a little spade, and that fits into that fitting just like that. And that is what the shelf on the inside of that top unit will sit on. Having these is really good because it makes the shelf removable. But not only that, you can actually put a few more of these in if you want to bring the shelf up or down. You don't have to do that straight away. You can add those holes in at a later date. So I'm only going to put one set of holes in at the moment. Get these spades in place. And I'm going to aim for about halfway. So half of it will be storage, and then the other half will be storage as well. So the built-in washing machine is done, but it's missing a face frame. And I've got all the tools out ready, even the planer thicknesser ready to start cutting up the tulip. But we do have a significant challenge, and that is the width of these rough tulip boards. As you can see, the board is 27mm, and this is a rough sawn board, which needs to be planer thickness down to 24mm. That does not give us a lot of millimeters to shave off this board to get it perfectly smooth and flat. Let's hope this is a good pick of a board. And we've got a couple of challenges. One is I don't have the right end for my vacuum to fit on the planer thicknesser. That means that we're going to see a lot of sawdust come out of here. And because this isn't in a workshop, I'm going to be sending this board through the thicknesser planer, and we've got to try and get it onto the little roller at the end to give us support. Then we're going to set this to just take off 0.5 millimeter at a time from each side. So let's get this baby fired up. Because of my lack of experience, we've got a problem with the board. The fact is, I bought this tulip too thin. This should have been much wider so that I could have taken more material off when I did the planer and thicknessing. As a result, we've got parts of the board which look like this. This is still rough timber, which means that can't be used on the face frame. I've also got some like pretty undesirable marks in the wood here, which I know that with a little bit of sanding and some prep, this won't be visible, so I can use that, but it's just not ideal. If I try and take off any more of the material, then the board is going to be too thin for me to use as the face frame. The face frame needs to be at least the same size as the door material, and the doors are 24 millimeters. That is a 15 millimeter moisture resistant MDF with a 9 millimeter moisture resistant MDF panel around the outside, which will match the rest of the kitchen. I don't want to have to buy any more material, so I'm going to see what I can do with this piece.
The thing with making face frames is the wood has got to be perfectly flat, uniform size with 90-degree edges, otherwise it never goes together properly and you can see gaps. So with me having all of these amazing tools, I still have one that is missing, which is a jointing machine. And that jointing machine allows you to take the edge off a rough sawn plank like this one is, which gives it that perfectly 90-degree angle and makes it nice and smooth and uniform. The only thing is, this jig that I've made here isn't exactly as good as a jointer. It's something I saw on YouTube, somebody else doing, in order to just fill that gap when you don't have the machine. It does work, you can run down the board, but it is a little bit tricky and it doesn't leave the ends nice and smooth, just like a jointer would. So you do have to do some prep afterwards with a sander.
This is the result of all the cutting that we've done. So this is the bottom face frame for where the drawer is going to be. This is going to be covering up where the skirting board's going to be, and then that is the join between where the drawer is and the door where the washing machine is. I'm going to have to cut today short because I don't have my pocket hole jig. Can't find it anywhere, so I've got to order a new one so I can actually screw all of this together. This is a problem with DIY. If you don't have a nice organised workshop or garage, you lose your tools or you can't find them quick enough, and then you end up delaying projects because, I don't know, you're just not organised. So I'll get my pocket hole jig and then we can start putting all of this together.
It became apparent to me when I was screwing all of this together that not all of the planks were exactly the same thickness, which means that when I was sending all of those large rough sawn planks through that planer thicknesser, there was 0.5 mil difference, and that makes a big difference in a face frame. So if I was to be doing this again, I think I'd take either more time doing the planer thicknessing and make sure that that was correct, or I'd pay for somebody with a much more professional machine to do it for me. That might save a lot of time and energy and give me a better result.
This has made me wonder, do people put face frames ever through a thicknesser planer? Because if you were to make this loads thicker, say I wanted it finishing at 25 mil wide, but I made it at 30 mil, and then I put the whole thing when it was done through the thicknesser planer, you would have something that come out perfectly flat. That would work really well. Maybe if you know the answer to that, drop it in the comments. Now we've got to repeat that same process again and make a face frame for the top of the washing machine. I'm kind of excited because I've got the face frame marked up for the scribe, which is going to go for the washing machine by the wall, and you can see the line there. And what I did, I put the face of the face frame, so the bit that I think is the nicest part of the wood, I put that facing inwards, and then I marked off with a pencil from inside the cabinet down in order to get that line there. So I now know that that line is pretty close, if not maybe half a mil too big. So if I cut down that line with my blade, I should have a perfectly fitting piece of face frame for the scribe. There's only one way of finding out, we've got to just cut it. If we find that the face frame sits against the wall but it's just touching the wall too much, we might have to take a little bit off this edge which is touching the wall. To make those adjustments easier, I'm just going to change the angle of this blade here to be slightly leaning in like that, probably on a 5-degree angle, which means that if I want to remove any material off this side, I'll only be removing the edge, not the full width, which is just, it's just going to make those adjustments a little bit easier. Let's see how this works.
Now I'm going to make up the 9mm side panel, which is going to make this look like one big solid unit. But because the bottom of the unit is actually bigger than the top, I'm going to have to make some shims to bring the top out level with the bottom, so that when I put the side panel in place, it's got something that it can sit against and that I can nail into. I tested the shims of Tulip with the 9mm panel that I was going to be using to see if it fit in the gap. Unfortunately, I was about 1mm out at the bottom, which meant that I needed to use a knife to scrape away some of the face frame from the cabinet next to it so it would slide in without too much resistance.
This is an unforeseen challenge. So I've got this ugly MDF edge that needs to be covered up. And to be honest, I think I should address this before I put the face frame on. And the issue is this is the edge banding that I want to put on there. So I'm going to have to shave some of this away in order for the door to close properly. I'm going to have to take maybe 1mm or 2 off to ensure that the door doesn't hit this.
This is honestly one of those issues that would have been foreseen if I'd done a bit more design work. And as I said before, I hadn't really done enough design work on this project, and as a result, small problems like this occur, which then need to be fixed as and when they arise, and they look a little bit more DIY and a bit less professional.
Now we have it. It's taken about an hour, but I've used a multi-tool, a circular saw, a plane and a chisel to get this finished result. this is the wrong type of edging.
I just took it for granted that the edging I had was the iron-on stuff, so I tried to iron it on and ended up melting it. Luckily, I had enough left over to finish it off, but I needed to buy some impact adhesive. 15mm moisture-resistant sheets are pretty heavy, but it's the type of material I'm going to be using to make my doors out of. With this having a washing machine inside, I don't want to take any risks by using standard MDF. This needs to be moisture resistant because of the water that the washing machine could potentially create. And the design of these doors are exactly the same as how I've done every other door in the kitchen, which is a shaker style of adding 9mm moisture resistant MDF to the edges. And the glue that I'm using here is mitre adhesive. That 9mm edge allows me to fit some beading inside, which gives it that finishing touch. I always like to make the door and the panels a millimetre bigger than the actual space. It gives me the opportunity to square it all up and get smooth edges afterwards, although using a table saw to do this did feel very risky.
This is the problem. So at the bottom, that door has no hinges on, so it's resting on the face frame. Can you see? There's no gap at all. And then when we go to the top, there is also no gap at all, really, which means that that door is too tight in that space. So I need to cut some off the top and then re-edge band it. That's annoying. The next thing is, this gap here might just be enough for the door, but that isn't the big problem. The big problem is how much the door is bowed. Can you see how you can see the white edge of the door all the way down until it disappears at the bottom, and then all the way up until it disappears at the top. So that tells me that the door is bowed out in the middle. I'm hoping that the hinges, once they're on, will pull the door in just enough. But it's a long shot. I've made such a stupid mistake. I've put the hinge on measured from the front of the face frame rather than measured from the front of the carcass. So now the door is looking like this. It closes in, but on the other side there's a big gap. Doesn't always go smoothly.
Honestly, at this point, I was beginning to lose the will to complete this project. It just felt like throughout the whole thing, there was just tiny, small problems throughout. And every time I had to come up with a solution, it would make the cabinet just look that little bit worse. All I'm seeing at this point in the project is a rough, uneven face frame, a door that doesn't fit properly, a butchered internal edge, and a whole load more work ahead just to make the drawer and the drawer front for underneath. The biggest demotivator for me with projects like this is if I believe the final outcome might not meet my standards. All of those small imperfections add up to make a whole project that just doesn't look great.
These are the beautiful handles I'm using. They're from Plank Hardware. And honestly, I don't know where I should put this handle. And here we have the final outcome, and it looks so good in the kitchen. This nice little antique brass handle aligns the design with everything else in the kitchen, and so does the colour, which is Neptune Hone Slate. But does it help us fix those problems I mentioned at the beginning of the video? I live in this 1930s semi-detached property, which is actually quite small. It's got no utility and the kitchen is only 25 square meters. So we've had to make the very best use of the space that we've got. This back wall has all of the amenities on it, like the water and the waste. So the washing machine really did need to go over here, and there isn't any other space for it than in this corner. The issue we had, and we had to overcome, which we have overcome, is raising the washing machine up so I can still have access to that water stopcock if I need it. The bottom drawer pulls out, detaches, which means I can very easily get to that at any point in time that I want to. Other than the aesthetics looking great, there are a few niggly issues with this about the door being bowed, so there's a bit of an indent at the bottom. I really can't stand that. Some of the surfaces look a bit rough, but that's down to my painting. The interior looks amazing in the Noble Valentia. That dark wood is fantastic, and it's a material that I'll keep on using because I just think it looks amazing. The oven switch is hidden at the back, so it's not on display in invisible sight. It really is a nice bespoke in-frame washing machine cabinet. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.